Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum, Ere Nuo, Pax Vobiscum, peace be unto you. I want to be more inclusive in this channel, so I've included all these greetings, basically peace be unto you, peace be with you, in now Hebrew, in Arabic, in Greek, and in Latin, as well as English, obviously. So welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to look, I keep saying today, but I mean in this video, we're going to look at Judges chapter 6. I call this video Enter Gideon. There are 40 verses in this chapter. So let's start. Verse 2 talks about holes in the rocks versus strongholds. Okay, so I think people have an image in their mind, or at least I do, where you think of a stronghold, you think of a big fortress, where these are just simply holes in the rocks. Okay. Verse 3, went up together with them, talking about Midian, Amalek, and the children of the east. So these were allied forces versus they were against Israel, all three, yes. But you cannot assume that they are necessarily on the same side, that they are all allies. You can have multiple forces, but still enemies of each other, at least not friendly to one another. So that would be a wrong assumption to make, but in the Septuagint it is clear that they are indeed allied together. They went up together. Verse 5, land of Israel, and laid it waste. Okay, so there is an omission of the word Israel, the name Israel, as well as laid it waste implies that it is past tense. Okay. They came to the land of Israel and laid it waste. So these are, this happened. Whereas in the Masoretic, this is said in the future tense to destroy it. So it did not happen yet in this narrative. And the next verse actually confirms that it is indeed past tense correctly. So, because Israel was greatly impoverished as a result. And the Masoretic seems to agree, which only contradicts what it just said. And I need to insert here that it was not completely destroyed or completely laid waste utterly, because it would have said that and they would not exist anymore, but it seems to be a defeat of some sort, that they did defeat them to some degree. But I'm still open to the idea that it did not happen, perhaps to destroy, to the purpose of destroying, for the purpose of destroying. Could make sense. Let's just read the narrative and see, does it make sense to say and laid its waste, or to lay it waste? Did it happen or did it not? So let's look and let's read through. Verse 7 was a completely added verse. It's just reiterating the narrative here, where in the Septuagint the children of Israel cried to Yah. And it is mentioned there in the Masoretic, but it simply says, gives you the narrative flow of how the sequence of events occurred. So they cried, and okay, let me just rewind. In the Septuagint, Israel cried to God. In the Masoretic, Israel cried to God, and then it says, and because they cried to God, this happened. doesn't have to say it in the Septuagint. It doesn't say that at all. It just says they cried and then this happened. So it flows more. It's more efficient. It's just matter of fact. Significant difference here in verse 8. It says here, I am he. So this could be taken as I am, the capital I space capital A-M, versus I brought you out. So notice they omit the I am. It is similar to when Yehoshua HaMashiach said, I am he, using the I am. Perhaps that's what it is. Could be a connection there. Okay, let me just pause the video to look up these different trees, see if it's significant enough to warrant a pause. Okay, so a fir tree is a coniferous tree, looks like a pine tree. An oak tree is not coniferous. It is a tree or a shrub. So that's the kind of tree that has leaves, not needles. So it's interesting that it mentions a fir tree. So I'm surprised they have pine trees in the Middle East. I guess they do. I'm going to have to look that up too. Hold on, let me just keep this video honest. Let's see, do they have pine trees, or more specifically, are fir trees found in the Middle East? Because if not, then the Septuagint is wrong. Oh, no, they are found in Lebanon, Syria, and Turkey. So yeah, they do grow in the Middle East. I did not know that till now. So I just learned something live on, well, not really live, but in this video. And then you'll notice the name Ephrath, which seems to be Bethlehem Ephrathah, and then Ophrah, which I think is a mistake. Could be a mistake. I don't think there is a place called Ophrah. In any case, if there is, it's not the same as Ephrathah, because it says here, a city for Ophrah in BibleAtlas.org. It is a city in the tribal lot of Manasseh, west of Jordan. It is only mentioned in connection with Gideon. So that would be a big error if that is the case. So let me look up Ephrathah and see where that is. Okay, so Ephrath is a former name of Bethlehem. So that is not the same place. Bethlehem is in Judah. Okay, not in Jordan. So those are two very different places. Okay, in the land of Joash, father of Esdri. So why would Gideon be in Jordan? He was a judge in Israel, judge of Israel, so he would be in the land of Israel. And isn't that not why these invading peoples, Amalek and so on, that's why they're invading Israel, not Jordan? Doesn't make any sense. So that seems to be a problem if it's going to be Ophrah. Okay, and notice as well that Joash, who is the father of Gideon, was the father. Hold on here. The land of Joash, father of Esdri. Okay, so it's Esdri who is Joash's son. Okay, Joash is the father of Esdri. Esdri is the son of Gideon. Okay, but okay, I'm a little confused now. Joash is the father of Gideon in the Masoretic, whereas in the Septuagint, Joash, father of Esdri, and Gideon his son. So who is the father, Joash or Esdri? I'm not even sure, to be honest. Let's just keep reading. Before we continue on, notice in the Masoretic it says Joash the Abiezrite. The Abiezrite, okay? Verse 12, strength versus valor. Okay, verse 13, here's a significant difference regarding Gideon. This is his statement here. Said to the angel that appeared to Gideon, in brackets, be gracious with me. So this just may not say with, it may not say be gracious. The original just says with me. But they insert be gracious with me to make more sense of this statement. In any case, be gracious with me, Adonai. But if Yah is with us, why have these evils found us? Okay, so we can see he's asking an honest question, and he's being respectful. In the Masoretic, Gideon is not as respectful. He's saying, oh my Adon, oh my Lord. I don't know if he's saying this as a expression or not. Perhaps I'm going to assume he isn't. Just saying, oh my Adon. If Yah be with us, why then is all this befallen us? So he's a lot more vague as to this. All this has happened to us. Well, what is all this? In the Septuagint, it describes what this is. It is all these evils, or calamity is another way to render that. Verse 14, behold, I have sent you. So this is confirmation to Gideon that he can trust Yah. He can trust Yah. The Masoretic, that's questionable. Gideon's faith is called into question. Not to say that they're questioning his faith, but he has to search himself and really realize, is God really with me? Because the question is, have I not sent you? Whereas in the Septuagint, it's a statement, I have sent you. Okay. Have I not sent you? If someone asks me that question, has God not sent you? I have to ask myself, I don't know. Has he or has he not? Okay, so that's verse 14. 15 says, be gracious with me, Adon, talking to the angel. Whereas, again, he's saying, oh yeah, wherewith shall I save Israel? So, just that statement, that expression, be gracious with me, my Adon, that's very polite, it's courteous, it's respectful. It shows fear of Yah and his messenger that he sent. Whereas the tone that can be interpreted here with, oh Yah, sounds like complaining, in my opinion. Okay, next we're going to look at the same verse. Behold, my 1,000 is weakened in Manasseh. What is his 1,000? Could be his 1,000 troops, 1,000 men that he oversees. Versus my family is poor in Manasseh. So in the Septuagint, Gideon is describing his military strength, perhaps his forces that would be able to get the job done, specifically these 1,000 men to save Israel. Okay, so that's their purpose. Versus Gideon describing his family's poverty, which really has nothing to do with saving Israel. It's all focus on himself, not the big picture. It's not talking about the context of the situation, okay? Has nothing to do with the mission. His job of saving Israel as the judge of Israel. Big difference in verse 16. It says here, and the angel of the Lord said to him, the Lord or Yah shall be with you. verses, and Yah said to him, surely I will be with you. So what is the difference here? The difference is the angel's talking to him. Because that's a narrative that God sent an angel, the Lord sent an angel, Yah, whatever you want to call him, sent the angel to Gideon. And this is the angel continuing to talk. Why would Yah send an angel if he's just going to speak to him himself? That doesn't make any sense. And then in the Masoretic, it just confuses people, confuses the reader, because first the angel is sent to him, and then all of a sudden Yah is speaking to him. Why send the angel at all? Okay, so, and we see that they just dig their hole even deeper, the Masoretic does. It just doubles down, says, surely I will be with you. So they're saying Yah is speaking to him directly, and we know that's just not the case, because he sent his angel for a reason, to deliver this message. Otherwise, don't send the angel. Okay, so that's what happened there in verse 16. Big difference. And then we have a massive difference. Our first one in this chapter, at least. It says, and Gideon said to him, the angel, and by intercessory, by way through the angel, via the angel to Yah, because he's kind of communicating as an intercessor in a way. If now I have found mercy in your eyes, and you will do this day for me all that you have spoken of with me. Okay, so verses, the Masoretic saying, and he said to him, the Lord, not the angel, if now I have found grace in your sight, so instead of mercy, grace, then show me a sign that you talk with me. So asking for a sign, just explicitly asking for a sign, which can be bad, can be a negative thing. So he did not say, show me a sign. He didn't ask for a vague sign. He said, if I have found mercy, and he's still continuing on. This is his request to the messenger. Don't leave. So it's not to Yah. He's speaking to the messenger. So I have to correct what I just said. He's not speaking to Yah. He's speaking to the messenger. Do not leave here till I come to you. I'll bring an offering and offer it before you. Just stay here till I get back. Essentially is what he is telling the angel. And so the angel responds, I will stay here until you come back. So that's not a sign. That's only a request. So I need to clarify that. So let's just put it down in black and white. We have a request versus a sign. So not a sign, it is a request. It's a simple request, and there's nothing blasphemous about it, nothing disrespectful about that. It's simply a kind request, and the angel entreated him for that request. Okay, verse 19 now. Okay, we have another tree called a turpentine tree, and I'm not a herbalist or a tree expert, arborist. What is a turpentine tree? It is, what kind of tree is it? It says a pine tree. Okay, so it continues with this narrative that the fir tree and now this turpentine tree. Okay, it does not look like a pine tree. I guess it was not. It is not a pine tree. Okay, so it is not a pine tree. So this tree, I don't know if it's the same one referred to as a fir tree, but this is now under the turpentine tree. So actually there's many different trees that are classified under turpentine tree. So it could indeed be a coniferous tree. But let's look up the one from the Middle East, All of these are from Australia and Asia and so on. So let's look at Pistacia terebinthus, a deciduous tree. Okay, so it is not a coniferous tree, it's deciduous. So it's interesting how we started with a fir tree. Maybe there were two different places. And now we have a turpentine tree. If you allow me to just rewind here and see. Oh, okay, rewinded way too far. Going into other books now. Okay, let's look at the fir tree first. Just to settle this issue here. So verse 11, we see the fir tree being mentioned. And now we're in verse 19. So what happened? How did we wind up with a turpentine tree? So the angel came to Gideon and sat down under the fir tree. This could be a mistranslation, perhaps. I don't know, because it says an oak in the Masoretic, and then we have a fir tree here. So this is a... How can you be under a pine tree? That's hard to go under. Okay. Unless they trimmed it at the bottom. And then 19. So he brought them forth to him under the turpentine tree. So notice the Masoretic remains consistent with it being an oak tree in both. This could be a mistranslation, or maybe it was turpentine tree all along, and they mistranslated it as a fir tree instead of turpentine. I'm not sure, to be honest. Okay, so that can be that is a bit of a question. Not a major difference, but just if you're an arborist and you're obsessed about trees, then that could be an issue for you. Just to get your facts straight. So, verse 21. Notice in this verse that fire came up out of the rock. Okay. So we see, or we saw Moses. Water came out of the rock to give sustenance to the people of Israel, the children of Israel, 2 times. Gideon here, however, sees fire instead of water coming out of the rock. So these are 2 miracles. Or I should say 3 technically. But these are 2 different elements coming out of a rock, of all things. Okay. Now we're going to look at verse 26. Let me just pause for a moment because there's a strange word here, maozi. Okay, so maozi, as you see in verse 26, is a Hebrew word, means fortress apparently. And in the Masoretic, it keeps it as rock. So let's just read the context. You shall build an altar to Yah, your Elohim, on the top of this fortress, in the ordering. And you shall take the second bullock. Okay, so why would he build it on a fortress where he actually laid this offering on a rock? So it could be perhaps it is a rock. Maybe that's another meaning for maozi. I only see fortress, so let me see if it can also mean rock. Can it also mean rock? Okay, it doesn't really say here. Perhaps that is another meaning. I'm not saying it is, but I'm just leaving it up to being open to that possibility that it could also mean a rock, because that's what he offered the offering on this rock. Okay, in the ordering it versus in the ordered place. Verse 28, demolished the altar versus cast down. It's one thing to pull it down, it's another thing to destroy it. To demolish something is, if if you've seen Demo Crew that destroy old buildings and things. They demolish, bring it to rubble. We also see destroyed, the grove, versus cut down. So this Gideon really did a number on these altars and groves, or altar and grove. I could just see Gideon, I could imagine his face, kind of like a prankster, seeing his reaction to their reaction when they found out about the altar of their god, their Elohim, had been demolished, as well as the grove. I could just picture Gideon's face like, Jim from The Office, for lack of better comparison there. Did I do that? I don't know if he was a little mischievous, but he's got to have, I imagine he had some sort of emotional response to their response, or even the anticipation of them discovering what he had done as a result of the commandment of Yah to do this in the first place. And notice this is who this belongs to: the altar and the grove. To his father, the house of his father, and the men of the city. Okay, verse 29. They also found the altar he built to not just the altar itself, but even the second bullock, the remains of it. He didn't hide it. Verse 29, a man said to his neighbor, so this is specific individual, one male adult said to his neighbor, we don't know the gender of who that person is, mentioned who has done this thing. In the Masoretic, it's they said one to another, so it's multiple people asking each other, who did this, who did this, who did this? It's not one guy, so it seems to be a little more like broken telephone, or at least people gossiping to each other, word of mouth spreading. And notice searched, they inquired and searched to find out who did this. So to inquire means to ask, and to search means to investigate. But to inquire and ask means to ask and to ask. So that's redundant. And then it says, and learned, so they learned, the people learned, they found out, they discovered, versus they said, so they publicly proclaimed, Gideon did this thing. Instead of it not being a verbal statement, but simply they learned the fact. They learned the identity of who did it. And then they say, in verse 30, this is their verbal expression, not verse 29. They said to Joash, so bring out your son. So Joash could be the grandfather, because again, in scriptures and biblical culture, there's no distinction between a father and a grandfather, and a grandson and a son. So Joash is technically the father of Gideon, but so is the son of Joash as well. Is also the father of Gideon, and Gideon is both the son of Joash and his own father, if we're going by that understanding that Joash is the son of the individual named earlier, Esdri. Maybe Esdri died. I don't know. Who is Esdri? Okay, so this is verse 31, I should say. So this is a massive difference. Another massive difference in this chapter. We have two so far. Gideon, the son of Joash, notice this. Gideon is the one speaking, responding to all the men who rose up against him. He's a brave man because his life is on the line. He could be executed. That's what they said, right? Let him die. So they want to kill him. And he speaks up in the middle of this very tumultuous situation. The Masoretic it doesn't make any sense because Joash is the one speaking. Why would Joash speak when it's his altar of his Elohim that was destroyed? Why would he defend Gideon when he's actually angry at Gideon? That doesn't make any sense. So I write here, it makes no sense for Joash, who is a worshiper of this Elohim, to say these things. It makes more sense for Gideon to be the speaker. So this verse and others like it, but specifically this one in Judges 6, verse 31, only supports the stance, the position of those who say that the Holy Bible has been corrupted, that the Bible contradicts itself and is inconsistent. Based on the Masoretic, yes, it's true. It contradicts itself and is not consistent. It's there in black and white. And because I find, based on this verse, as well as others, the Masoretic text does contradict itself in many places, and specifically in this place, and is inconsistent. However, this is just not so with the Septuagint. There is no contradiction here. The narrative makes sense, doesn't contradict itself. It makes logical sense and narrative sense. Verse 32, big difference here, another big difference. We have massive differences and big ones. It says, he called it in that day Yerubbaal. So Yerubbaal. So why would he call it, or not why, but who's calling it that name? It seems to be Gideon. Gideon is the one continuing to be the person identified here. He's the one speaking, and he's the one calling it the place, perhaps the altar that was thrown down was being called this name. However, in the Masoretic, we see that he... Hold on a second, I just have to address this noise or else it's going to continue on. Okay, pardon the interruption. So let's pick up where we were. It says he called it by this name, talking about Gideon. And then in the Masoretic, he, referring to Joash, his father, or grandfather perhaps, renamed him, that is Gideon, Yerubbaal. And I didn't even notice this till now. I'm going to write it down. In the Septuagint, saying, let this name plead thereby. Let him plead because his altar has been thrown down. So let him plead because of this situation. Okay, so that's another interesting difference. I'm going to include that because that is an important fact as well. I'm going to call that a big difference. So it's another big difference versus let this name plead against him, against Gideon, not against the situation. Let him complain to Gideon. Not just complain, maybe it means to do something against him, maybe even act against him, punish him. We don't know. But there's certainly some kind of vindictive sentiment in the statement here, if we're going by the Masoretic. But if we're going by the Septuagint, so it's like punitive action. Let him plead against him. So let's just say a punitive action, or vindictive, maybe even vindictive sort of sentiment. Okay, so let him act let him react, let there be consequences essentially on Gideon, is what is the statement in the Masoretic. Whereas it's more of a Elijah and the prophet situation that, again, we haven't covered that yet, but a lot of Bible readers know, or Bible students know the story of Elijah and the hundreds of prophets of the false Elohim, and simply saying, okay, well, let this false Elohim, they're not saying it's false, but let this name, starts with a B, plead thereby, let him plead regarding the situation, the circumstance. Let's just say the circumstance of the destroyed altar, and grove. Okay, so that is what's happening here. Because his altar has been thrown down. Okay, so really is the altar is the focus more than the grove, but I just inserted that because those are two related events, I should say. So that is a big difference. And it's interesting that Gideon would call it by this name. Maybe he's mocking them. Perhaps it's a way to mock them. I don't know. Okay, moving on to verse 34. Okay, having a bit of technical difficulty there. Sorry about that. Oh, okay. Let's just close that. It's a bit embarrassing. Okay, I'll just save it just like that. There, it's easier. Okay, so verse 34, it says here, came to help him. Abiezer came to help after him. Verses gathered after him in the Masoretic. So we can see that Abiezer was his ally. I'm not sure who Abiezer is. It could be a people or a tribe or one individual. In the Masoretic, they gathered after him. It could be an ally, but it could also be an enemy, possibly. Okay, in verse 35, significant difference here. He came to meet them, meaning Gideon met them, these forces, Manasseh, Asher, and Zebulun. Okay, so he blew with the horn, Gideon did, and Abiezer came to help after him. And so Abiezer seems to be an individual, not a people or a tribe, because as a result of Abiezer coming to help him, this is what happened. Messengers were sent into Manasseh, Asher, and Zebulun. So this person seems to be somebody who gets the job done. He takes care of business. And to Naphtali as well. And it says here at the end of this verse, 35, he, meaning Gideon, went up to meet them. Or it could be Abiezer. I'm actually open to that idea. Let me just put here, could be Abiezer too. Abiezer. So I believe that means my father is the help, or help comes from the father in Hebrew. Abiezer met them, or Gideon did. It's hard to say who that is. But I imagined initially, I put here Gideon. It makes more sense for him to meet them because he is showing his leadership in this situation, that he's really involved and is taking the initiative. On the other hand, in the Masoretic, it makes no sense. They came to meet them. Who's they? Not that it doesn't make sense, but it doesn't flow as well in the narrative because it's saying, okay, Zebulun met with Naphtali, and Manasseh met with Asher, and they just all met with each other, and they kind of slowly gathered instead of them gathering in one place, and then he, whoever that is, could be, again, Gideon or Abiezer, meeting with them. Okay, in verse 37, there's an omission of the word threshing floor. So this is a bit confusing to me even. I'm not sure if it really is threshing floor, but it does say threshing floor, which calls into question, is a threshing floor, is that outside or is it in a building? So where is a threshing floor, I guess, is the real question. Where is a threshing floor located? Because if you recall, again, we haven't gone there yet, but there's the story of how the altar, or the location of the temple, was to be situated on a threshing floor of, I believe it was Ornan. So it says outdoor threshing floors are usually located near a farm or farmhouse in places easily accessible from growing areas. They are usually paved with material that may be of various kinds, such as round cobblestones. So that's interesting. So there are outdoor threshing floors, and so an ancient threshing floor is that covered in cobblestones, or is that simply earth? A lot of the pictures that I'm looking at seem to be like soil and rock, not vegetation. So you wouldn't have a threshing floor on vegetation. It seems to be a uniform surface, cobblestones or dirt, but no vegetation. Yeah, it seems to be no vegetation on the threshing floor. So it is outdoor. That it does not contradict that this would not be happening outside. And we see that Gideon asks for this sign. He actually does ask for a sign in this verse. He said, I shall know that you will save Israel if there is only dew on the fleece only, and that it's dry on all the ground, which is the threshing floor. Okay. Which, that is a miracle. So that does happen. Early in the morning, he was able to wring out the fleece, and a bowl of water is how much dew that fleece absorbed. I picture it looking like this. This behind me here, made of sheepskin. So maybe it was like this kind of fleece, and he wrung it out, and enough water came out to fill up a bowl. How big is the bowl? Maybe a salad bowl, I'm not sure. Okay, and then the reverse is asked. He said, I will speak yet once. I will even yet make one trial more with the fleece. So the opposite is let the fleece be dry. So the fleece is now dried. And let there be dew on all the ground of the threshing floor. So again, it's either cobblestones or some kind of rocky surface or some soil, but it's dry. But was dry, now it's wet. And it says there was dew on all the ground of the threshing floor. Okay, so that is unmistakable. He asked for those signs, and multiple things happened. It's not just the fleece, but even earlier, when the fire came out of the rock. I think that alone is proof enough. But Gideon, he's a person that just wants to make sure. There's nothing wrong with making sure that you have the green light and you have the approval of Elohim, of Yah. Okay, so that's all for this video. It was quite lengthy, but the content of this chapter will definitely be in the summary video of this of the biggest differences in the book of Judges, between the Septuagint and the Masoretic text. So much content just in this chapter, so much discrepancy and massive differences that, again, somebody who dislikes Holy Scripture, specifically the Tanakh, can use and say, they can use this as ammunition to say, yeah, the Bible does contradict itself. It is inconsistent. And I wouldn't be able to contest them. When it comes to the Masoretic text, that is. There's a lot of holes in the Masoretic text. So I don't see why. I mean, I see why in a way, but I don't see how this book continues to hold up when there's so much proof to show that it contradicts itself and that it's widely inconsistent. Whereas the Septuagint, on the other hand, there's very few contradictions, if any. The only one that I can think of is the genealogy when it comes to the numbering of the years. When you're looking at the genealogy from Adam to Abraham, specifically the years of the forefathers, their ages when they begat their sons, and I think that's just a mistranslation of the word for 100. But anyway, that's another video all to itself. Just thank you for your time once again, ladies and gentlemen. Till next time, we're gonna look at Judges chapter 7, and this is like a pop quiz for me to try to remember all the ways to say peace. Peace be with you in all those languages. So let's start with the Hebrew. Shalom Aleichem. Assalamu alaikum. Ireneu. Hope I pronounced that correctly. And then Pax. Just learned this today. Oh, I gotta look at the picture. I forgot. Pax Vobiscum. Peace be with you. Peace be unto you. Maranatha until next time. We'll look at Judges chapter 7.